Hello, my friends. Do not attempt to adjust your television sets or YouTube browsers. What you're seeing is absolutely real. You may have tried to come to the library, but you've gone somewhere beyond the library.
You have entered the birthday cake zone.
You may be asking yourself how you got to the birthday cake zone. It's because I'm terrible at YouTube, and it takes me way longer than I think it will to make videos about stuff. The rewind in question for this video I had actually been playing over the course of my birthday period, but it takes me so long to make and get these videos out that we are far skewed from that now. But I'm still making this the birthday episode because then I get to review and rewind something that means a lot to me without the worry of anything else. Sure, and it's easy enough to say, well, it's your YouTube channel, you could be doing that anyway if you wanted to. And to those people, how about you shut up? So, without further ado, let's get the ball rolling on this one. The year for this rewind is China. And specifically China during its dynastic period, during its Dynasty Warriors period. So then the next obvious thought is, oh, okay, so all that was a lead up for a Dynasty Warriors video, but which Dynasty Warriors? Yes, and maybe extending that even further into a rant about all musou games, because for people who are in the know of musou games and play that genre of games, every one of them offers its own unique kind of spin and mechanics that people either love or deeply resent for even existing. But what makes reviewing them as a rewind pretty easy is because to everyone outside of the musou genre, they're all the exact same game, so it's pretty easy to just kind of spread over the course of one video. But let's start off with the easy one of, what is Dynasty Warriors? Dynasty Warriors, originally released in 1997 for the PlayStation 1 by Omega Force and Koei, is a 1v1 fighting game with a weapon-based specialization, kind of like Soul Calibur, in the 3D format to compete with Soul Calibur and Tekken. And to get nitpicky, yes, technically Soul Calibur wasn't out yet, although they share the exact same genre. Soul Calibur was initially released as Soul Edge in the arcades and then changed later when it was ported and such, but it doesn't matter. Being overall forgettable and poorly received with low reviews due to its stiff combat, uninnovative gameplay, and just kind of poor design, Koei and Omega Force shifted the series entirely with the next game in a move that would establish at that point the musou genre. And that means that this game doesn't matter for this video at all, it just is technically Dynasty Warriors 1, and you can forget it, and everyone else does too. So with that out of the way, that sees us in the year 2000 and the release of Dynasty Warriors 2, which is the creation of the musou-style genre hack and slash. Musou-style games are third-person games that are fast-paced action, typically with simple combat, a wide variety of heroes to choose from, but more importantly is the super wide-scaled battles that take place where you go 1 versus 1,000, 2,000 people. Your character alone pushes through tides and hordes of peons and other generals to turn the tide of whatever war you are fighting in and whatever side you happen to be. They are inherently a power fantasy genre. Defining a genre mostly by the camera angle and how many dudes you can beat up seems a little vague, but that's actually where some of the magic of musou comes in, because it's almost like a secret club. Once you've played one and you're familiar with the mechanics, you can spot them a mile away. The other half that makes that a magical mixture is that it's so vague, it can actually be applied to a whole host of different ideas and IPs. Because I'm willing to bet that there's a musou game out for you that you haven't tried yet. Chinese history not your thing? You're more of a Japan guy. I got you. The games Samurai Warriors are musou games that cover the Sengoku period of Japan and the feuding samurai lords. You say, whoa, these games aren't for me, I'm just a casual Nintendo enjoyer. I like that. And what you might like is one of the 3 musou games in the Legend of Zelda franchises, the third of which, set to be the biggest one, is actually debuting today, I think, as I'm filming this. The Age of the Imprisoning War comes out, so I will have to play that. What's that? You shop at Hot Topic. Wonderful. Persona 5 and Berserk each have their own musou game that you'll definitely enjoy. Okay, alright man, I hear you. You're a little bit older, you've been around the block a couple times, you don't know about all this, I got you. Let me tell you that Gundam and Fist of the North Star have 6 musou games between their 2 properties. Are you perhaps Japanese? Well then I know you'll love Fire Emblem having 2 different musou games under its name. Spend a lot of time watching anime? One Piece has 4 different musou games, the last of which is still to this day being supported with DLC and a roadmap that goes out to 2026. It doesn't even matter what episode you're on, musou games are inherently the most easy to pick up and play and to follow along even if you're only on episode 1 out of 1 million or whatever One Piece is on. Sorry, what was that one guy way in the back? You're saying none of this is crazy enough for you? Well then let me introduce you to the Orochi series. In Dynasty Warriors Orochi, the demon snake god Orochi takes all of the best Dynasty Warriors from China and the best Samurai Warriors from Japan and mashes them together and makes them fight in arena battles against demon gods. There are 4 of those, and in the 4th one, the gods of Olympus and some Norse gods, but not all of them, just a couple, as they see fit, get involved too, and they are all playable. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Time out. Hold on. Let's pull this back a little bit, I hear someone saying. I don't like that Warriors Orochi 4 set literally the Guinness World Record for most playable characters in a hack and slash game with a full roster of 175 characters. That's too much for me. I just want a game with limited character options, but crazy anime combat. And I've got the perfect thing for you because Capcom made their foray into musou games by taking the Japanese history that is also covered in Samurai Warriors and making a game called Sengoku Basara. And I think there's like 9 of them. It was kind of hard to find because some of them only released in Japan and some of them were Americanized versions of the Japanese game, including one game for PS2 called Devil Kings that I only found out later was part of Sengoku Basara. But it also has an anime with multiple seasons that covers a majority of the Sengoku period and the fights between the samurais. So unless you hate action somehow, there is a musou game for you out there. Also, shout out to Arslan, the Warriors of Legend, Fate Extella, and Token Ranbu Warriors. I didn't know what any of those were, so I couldn't prepare a joke or anything, but they exist. If you were into that, then congratulations, they exist. Let's scale this conversation back down to just Dynasty Warriors. I just wanted to go off about musou games and how cool I think they are because they cover such a wide variety of things. They're so easy to pick up, but we'll go back to that later. So Dynasty Warriors is the video game adaptation of the novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms, not to be confused with the other game that is just called Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which is the video game adaptation of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. They're different, and I am not honestly sure why, but Dynasty Warriors is what we're focused on. Romance of the Three Kingdoms is the romanticization of historical events that took place during the Three Kingdoms period. The places and locations and individual battles, and a lot of times even the outcomes of battles, are historical fact. Romance of the Three Kingdoms has been used as a historical text, if you can separate a lot of the poetry and some of the, obviously, flowery parts of it. So that's something that makes Dynasty Warriors unique already amongst other video games, because the characters that it references are historical characters. Mostly, it gets a little weird later on, but mostly all historical characters. So A, you do learn about significant battles and significant people in Chinese history, which is just always fun to learn about new stuff. But B, these characters aren't copyrighted. So if you play other games that are, especially made by Chinese companies like Honor of Kings, League of Legends, if you've seen the anime Techno Tenge, if you've seen the anime Record of Ragnarok, and I'm sure more, but these are what come to my mind off the top of my head. They have historical Chinese characters, so it's not unfamiliar to see Dynasty Warriors characters in a lot of other media, which is something you don't get from just other games that do have this copyrightable material, and obviously they're not just popping up all over. It would be like if there was a Dynasty Warriors game of George Washington and Ben Franklin and Paul Revere, and you see these guys pop up in a lot of other stuff, and you think, oh wow, I spent a lot of time being that guy. Oh wow, this guy's in it too. Wow, that's great. But in fairness, with that said, the more Dynasty Warriors that continue to come out, the more they expand the roster, as you assume they would. So they bring in people that are historically referenced, but certainly not generals or battle-hardened people. In the first 2 or 3 Dynasty Warriors games that have the musou quality, it was a lot of generals, it was a lot of soldiers that had made a name for themselves, and you battled them, and that relatively made sense. In the newer ones would have you believe that everyone's wife, mother, and daughter, and aunt dressed in skimpy outfits and came to the battle with fans, and literally everyone who could make even the vaguest of plan was a wizard. The best wizard of them all had the sacred plan of setting boats on fire, and apparently no one had thought of that, so that's fun. So I'm not going to pretend like they're 100% historically true, but they're historically inspired, and that's as close as I feel like getting with some stuff. Also, speaking of side media, Zhuge Liang, the wizard in question who was apparently notorious for setting boats on fire, has an anime called Ya Boy Kongming, where after he dies on the battlefield, he gets isekai'd to modern-day Tokyo and uses his strategies to help a girl become a pop idol. These are dope characters! Now, let's assume that I haven't thrown enough information at you yet and it's not confusing enough. I'd like to try to fix that and add more details to this fire. So Dynasty Warriors, even as a mainline Dynasty Warriors series, comes in several variety of games. There is the mainline numbered series, Dynasty Warriors 4, 5, 6, 7. There is the Extreme Legends, which initially just functioned as DLC for earlier games that couldn't get DLC, like on the PS2 or PS3. There are the Empire games, where you take control of characters and you build your own empire, and you make diplomacy, and you can make your own treaties, and you decide who and where you want your army. There are Dynasty Tactic strategy games that I don't think are very popular because there's only like maybe 3 of them. And there's also Dynasty Warriors Strike Force. No more needs to be said about Dynasty Warriors Strike Force, but it does legally exist. Okay, so now that we have ground rules for what we're talking about and what we're experiencing, I can actually bring up what I actually did for this video. I had to enlist the help of the other librarians that I do not talk about that much because they're just secret background gremlins, and they helped me without knowing it. They're going to find out in this video that they were a great help. So, I have been playing Dynasty Warriors 5 Empires, Dynasty Warriors 6 Empires, Warriors Orochi 4, and the backup librarians were playing Dynasty Warriors 8 and Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires. Like I said a while ago in this video now, they all have little intricate differences. A lot of people consider Dynasty Warriors 3 to have gotten all of the steps right, but it was so early on it didn't really have any polish in them. Dynasty Warriors 5 is where we hit a lot of polish, and you can absolutely tell in the combat and the intricacies of what plans you can use in the Empires mode. 6 tried to appeal to a wider audience by scaling that back, but the core combat was still there with upgraded graphics being one of the first ones on the PS3. Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires expanded the roleplay aspect of it incredibly, to the point where you could form personal relationships, form blood bonds, you could marry and have children, and then your children would carry on traits from you and expand your empire into the future, essentially. So you created a whole lineage, not just a territorial moment in time. Dynasty Warriors 8, as one of the only mainline games that were played, made some tweaks to the combat that the other librarians did enjoy. I thought it deviated too much from the formula because these games are pretty formulaic in their combat structure, and I like that. Other people don't specifically like that. So this is where we brought up it depends on what you're into, but there is a musou game out there for you. But Warriors Orochi 4, where you can be the gods of Olympus and all the samurai warriors and all the dynasty warriors and Ryu Hayabusa and a cat girl and a lot of shit. I mean, that's what I'm into. I want the crazy shit. Oh, I also recently started a playthrough on Sengeku Basara, but that was a couple months ago. Still pretty recent, I'd say. And that's a good time. It scales back a lot of the options and goes for absolute quality over quantity, getting rid of the formulaicness of its combat for more combos, more powers, and more versatility with each character. So if that's what you're into, there's that too. So the part about me playing it actually turned into way shorter than the part about me fangirling about what the games are and what they have to offer. So the question for this rewind, like it is and like it always will be, is Dynasty Warriors worth your time? And realistically, are there musou games that are worth your time? Because I feel like a video on Dynasty Warriors is extrinsically a video on the genre itself. Let's go back to the cake dimension and talk about it. I feel like this is a dead giveaway. I'm not going to spend that long fangirling in the explanation section and then tell you it's not worth your time, it's worth your time. There's at least one of them that's worth your time. Dynasty Warriors is good, but if there's something specific or a specific IP that you're looking for, that exists too. If you don't like old games, play the new ones. There are still new ones coming out. There was one that was released last year called Dynasty Warriors Origins that's now coming out for the Switch in 2026. It has a completely new style that changes the format while still keeping the 1 versus 1,000 mentality. I haven't had a chance to play it, and there hasn't been any sequels or anything else in that style, so I'm not sure if it'll take off with the fan base or if it won't. There's also a remake of Dynasty Warriors 3 coming out for the Switch in 2026, and I think probably on PC and everything else too, come to think of it. So if you do like older games, play the older ones, or if you want the remakes, play that. I know that a lot of the videos I've had out so far, well, all the videos I've had out so far were like noticeably older games, and that's fine. That's just happened to be what I like got around to. But I never wanted this channel to be just another retro gaming channel because there was a lot of those. I just wanted to bring attention to games that I didn't think got a lot of attention. There is always a Dynasty Warriors that can be played or that's coming out. But I feel like the whole genre is kind of the AA bridesmaid that'll never be a AAA bride. Maybe the closest is the new Legend of Zelda Age of Imprisonment, because that has been getting a lot of marketing and attention, and good for it. If it outshines Dynasty Warriors, the entire space still benefits from this high tide. Two of the big checkboxes that I look for when I play games is the actual engagement time and the respect of my time that I give to the game. And musou games and Dynasty Warriors score incredibly highly on that. When I pick up a controller, I don't want to sit through 100 cutscenes. I don't want a wall of dialogue all the time. Sometimes it's fine, but it's not my exact thing. But Dynasty Warriors, you pick up within 5-10 minutes, maybe you have to customize your weapon or something. You're into a battle that far outweighs how much time you spent in the menus. And to that same end, if you want to spend all your time customizing and leveling all 170 characters and getting everybody's super duper level 9,000 weapon, you can do that. You can make these games take hundreds of hours. On the flip side, if you have 15 minutes before you have to go somewhere, you jump in, do one battle, there's not really any cutscenes, there's not a lot of nonsense in between, you did the battle, you leave. That's the ultimate respect of any player's time, is a game that adapts to your time. So this is a huge recommend from not just me, but everyone that I actually roped into this for the Rewinder library and all the backup librarians. Also, I have to add, while I was doing this video, I found out there's a 2019 live action Dynasty Warriors movie that Netflix has the rights to. I had no idea, but I'm going to watch that immediately and also bully the other librarians into playing Pirate Warriors with me because that's the next on my list. So if you made it this far through my wall of dialogue, thank you, and I appreciate you. But if you hate me or you want to tell me why I'm wrong down in the comments, please feel free to. Thank you for checking this out.